Hello, I'm Rachel Jones for Calcine Media. Welcome to another edition of Executive Corner Expert Talks. Today I'm speaking with Julian Woodcock. Julian is Managing Director of Viking Mines. Welcome to the show, Julian.
Hey Rachel, thanks for letting me be here.
Great to have a chat with you today. Now, firstly, we'd love to get your perspective on the global vanadium supply and demand dynamics and how you believe they might evolve over the coming years.
Yeah, that's a good question. Vanadium is a commodity that a lot of people don't tend to know much about, but it's around us all the time. 90% and more currently goes into the steel sector, and it's used for strengthening the steel and construction. So that really is the base load of where supply goes. But really, from my perspective, the exciting growth range is within the vanadium redox flow battery, or the VRBs as they can be known. This market share has grown significantly over the past few years, and it's now expected to peak at around 10% of global vanadium supply going into the VRBs for 2023. It's this sector which is poised for further significant growth as the vanadium batteries are adopted for energy storage. And there's forecasts out there predicting more than 50% of vanadium production is going to have to go into these batteries. Now, the steel sector is still going to need to maintain its consumption. We're still going to be building buildings and putting up significant structures. So in order to meet that supply that's going to be required for the batteries, we're going to see an increase required for vanadium production globally by more than 50%. So I really think that there's a great opportunity within the vanadium sector to see substantial growth.
Absolutely, it sounds absolutely fascinating. Now, I'd love to ask, how is Viking Mines positioned to capitalise on the growing use of vanadium in the global decarbonisation efforts?
Well, as I mentioned, the battery sector is poised for that growth, which is going to see vanadium required much more extensively. And we're well positioned to capitalise off that with our flagship asset, which is the Canegrass Battery Minerals Project. This is a rather modest 79 million tonnes of 0.64% V2O5, or vanadium pentoxide, which translates to more than £1 billion of contained vanadium. We're rapidly advancing this asset, and that's well timed with the forecast growing demand for vanadium in battery storage. In addition to the vanadium, however, we've got additional strings to our bow. The resource contains a substantial amount of iron. The mineralisation is hosted in magnetite, so we can see and expect future credits for the iron content. We've also got titanium, copper, nickel and cobalt, and hence the reason it's a battery minerals project, because it's got a suite of different elements. So they all have the potential to add significant value for the project. So I think Viking and our shareholders are really well positioned to benefit through capital growth of the company from the growing use of vanadium globally.
Now, if we could just talk a little bit more about Canegrass. You recently completed an extensive 7,500 metre drill program at Canegrass. Could you explain the focus of this program and the results that you received there?
Yes, definitely. So for context, the resource that I just mentioned is actually split into two deposits that are situated about 5 kilometres apart, and those deposits are called Kinks and Foldnose. From our geological investigations, which we've been completing over the last year, we were confident that there was an extensive amount of additional mineralisation that hadn't been tested, looking to join those two areas together. So we planned a drill program to test that concept, and we looked to drill both within the current resources, looked to extend them to areas where we knew they were extending because we'd seen the mineralisation on surface, but the resource didn't encompass those areas. We also saw opportunity for new targets outside of the resources. So right in between the two existing resource areas, there was an outcropping area we called King South, which had no resource reported. And our goal with that work was looking to define a higher grade component within the overall resource of around 30 million tonnes at about 0.9% vanadium pentoxide. One of the reasons for this is we've seen other companies demonstrate positive economic studies with that kind and scale of resource. So the results we received through the drilling have been excellent. There's a lot of information on our website if any investors would like to have a look. And they confirmed our thoughts. We intercepted some thick zones of mineralisation up to 40 metres in thickness, grading 0.74%. And there were high grade hits as well. And an example of that would be 17 metres at over 1% vanadium. So I believe we achieved all of our objectives. We extended the known limits of mineralisation. We defined a new area which is in the resource model. And all of that bodes really well for future work on the project.
Absolutely, that's fantastic news for Canegrass. Now, Viking recently engaged MEC Mining for an updated mineral resource estimate for Canegrass. What can you tell me about this and what progress is on track for release in the December quarter?
Yeah, MEC Mining is a consultancy firm, well experienced in putting resource models together. So we've worked closely with their geologists and mineral resource experts in order to work on an updated resource model for the project. We're currently re-estimating the resources at Kinks and Foldnose, which I've mentioned. And in addition, we'll be bringing in the Kinks South area, which is a maiden discovery. So there's no currently published resource for that, and that'll be adding to it. All of this will bring in a substantial additional resource, which is outcropping at surface and should significantly contribute to growth at the project. The work's been progressing well. We're definitely on track to release results within this quarter. And personally, I'm expecting a material improvement in the quality of the resource, and hopefully we'll achieve that target that I've stated, around 30 million tonnes at 0.9%. But that will be within a larger overall resource. As I've said, the current resource sits at 79 million tonnes at 0.64. We expect that to grow substantially.
And what can you tell me about the second stage metallurgical test work?
Yeah, we've talked in some of our releases about undertaking some further metallurgical test work. Metallurgy is a really critical step for these types of deposits. It's one thing to define the resource, but you have to work out a way to extract the valuable commodities. We completed an initial round of test work earlier this year on samples we collected from the drilling that we completed, and we got some excellent results. The test work we undertook was preliminary in producing a magnetic concentrate, which is the first step in extracting the commodities. And that concentrate graded over 1.4% V2O5 and importantly more than 60% iron. And that's important because it demonstrates that we could be producing a concentrate that not only has the value of the vanadium within it, but also the value as an iron ore product that we could look to market. The second stage test work is taking this a step further. This test work will take that concentrate and then we'll be producing the final vanadium product known as V2O5 flake from that concentrate. The results from the first test work were very encouraging, with more than 90% of the vanadium recovered. We're looking forward to being able to demonstrate we can produce the end product of V2O5 flake.
And if we could just talk about financials for a second, what can you tell me about the funding for your upcoming exploration work?
Yeah, we're in a very enviable position. We've got a very strong cash balance of 5.6 million Australian dollars at the end of the September quarter. So all of our activities funded from that balance. That means there's no need for any additional funding at this stage to bring in, and it benefits our shareholders by mitigating the need for any further dilutive capital raises.
And just finally, what are some of the crucial milestones that Viking Mines plans to achieve in the year ahead?
That's a good question. We are initially focusing on getting that resource updated and completed, and the metallurgical test work that we just talked about. And then once we've got these results, we'll be able to look at making the decision to move forward to the next step, which will be to undertake a scoping study on the project. In order to complete that scoping study, there'll be an element of doing desktop studies, but we may also look to undertake some further drill testing at Canegrass and additional met test work. But the main objective will be to assess the potential economics of the project. At this stage, I'm very optimistic that we've got the makings of a very significant vanadium project in play. We also have some other tenure. We have some projects in Western Australia, about 2 hours north of the town of Kalgoorlie, in a prolific gold district, which is also proving up as an emerging lithium province. It's very close to the Delta Lithium, an ASX listed company's Mount Ida lithium project, which has defined over 12 million tonnes of lithium in pegmatites there. We've got a number of pegmatites on our ground, and we're in process of planning some field activities which allow us to assess those and the potential of them for discovery of hopefully some lithium. And in addition to the gold that exists in the area.
It sounds like it's going to be a really busy time next year for Viking Mines. Thank you so much for your time today, Julian.
Thanks very much, Rachel.
Thank you. That was Julian Woodcock, Managing Director of Viking Mines. And if you missed any part of that chat, you can catch the full interview on our YouTube channel, Kalkine Media. So make sure to subscribe. I'm Rachel, reminding you to stay apprised and invest wise.